So let's get going. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today. It's November 4th, 2025. It's election day for some of you. So go out and vote if you haven't already. But welcome to Office Hours. Going solo today. So you got me, Richard Balsley, here at Microsoft, supporting U.S. education, our state local government customers. And our topic for today is open office hours. So we've got a few updates that we're going to get into, and then we'll answer any questions that folks might have. If you got questions, post them up in the chat, and we'll get to them as we go. So there were a number of updates for the past couple weeks, and then as you guys probably are aware, Ignite's coming up pretty soon, and so you're going to see a number of announcements come then as well. But we've introduced the new 2510 release for Microsoft Intune, as well as we've got an update for our compliance and remediation for Defender on iOS and iPadOS using Microsoft Intune. I'm actually just going to jump back and forth a bit here in the deck to just kind of talk about these updates. So the compliance remediation with Microsoft Intune and Defender on iOS and iPadOS. This is really quite simple. It's effectively, we just added a new button in the iOS app that allows you to resolve your compliance and remediation issues. So if you've ever tried to enroll or you've been told that you're out of compliance, the resolve wasn't always the easiest thing to do. Now there's just a button. It's very simple that you just go and click on. So that should maybe help some folks that might be using Defender on iOS. So if that's the case, that's in there now. In terms of what's new for Intune in October of 2025, so the 2510 release, we've got a blog post that touches on some of the higher level concepts of things that we released, but the what's new page actually kind of goes a bit deeper. One thing that hasn't landed yet, that at least I don't see it in my tenant yet, but it should probably start showing up here, I would imagine relatively soon, is that if you're using endpoint privilege management, we now have an overview page when you go into EPM that shows a 48-hour snapshot of what's going on within the environment. So at this top level here, let's see if I can make this a little bigger, maybe slightly better. This will show you the users that have only unmanaged elevations. It'll also show users that have both managed and unmanaged elevations, as well as users that only have managed elevations. So you get a high-level overview of what's going on in terms of EPM. And we've also made it easier to show of your unmanaged elevations which files are frequently used. And I don't know about you, but if you look at the number here, this is like 158 million elevations for Docker. I'd be curious about why I've got so many unmanaged elevations with Docker. PowerShell comes in a close second here at like 600 or 63 million, I think, if I get my commas right. So this is basically just showing that we've got a lot of unmanaged elevations in the environment, trying to understand why we have this many, and then creating elevation rules. It's fairly simple once you kind of know the files that are already being elevated. You can go into here, you can click on the view all unmanaged elevations, and then you can go and create rules based off of the data that's already been collected. We also have the support approved ones as well as any denied elevations too, so you can check into all that. So basically, we just give you an overview report that gives you a higher level view of everything that's going on within EPM, which prior to that, you'd only just have the reports and you have to kind of click in through each report, and it wasn't as easy to understand. This should make things a little bit easier. The updated network endpoints for Azure Front Door. In your Intune console, you should see a big banner. You've probably already ignored it, but at the very top of the console, there's a banner or a little line item there that you can click on that talks about the updated network endpoints. So if you have any outbound rules on your firewall, or if you need to use an allow list, you need to make sure that you're updating those network endpoints. There should be a message center post in your tenant. There's that banner that I talked about. Like we're getting this word out as wherever we can. So make sure that you're handling the new outbound traffic rules to make sure that you're going to be compliant with that when this all goes in play. I think it's later this month. I don't have the date off the top of my head. With autopilot, the enrollment status page, what was this? Quick update August, the ability to enroll in status page, install Windows security. Oh, this is the security updates. So back in August, we made an announcement that during the out-of-box experience through autopilot, you will be able to install Windows security updates during UBI. That has been pushed back. The new time frame for this to roll out is now in January. So I know some people like this. A lot of people have asked for it. They want, because when you buy a device from an OEM, typically the device is, the Windows release is old, and you have to wait for a new cumulative update to be deployed. And that, from a security standpoint, you've got this big gap in terms of getting the latest CU installed. And so a lot of customers want this to happen during UBI. I'm kind of the mindset that it's good in some cases, but in other cases, you might want to just get the device out as soon as possible. And so you're balancing time versus security in this regard. So within the enrollment status page, you're going to be able to control that. There's going to be an option that you can just toggle an option for that to allow you to install the security updates, but it's going to take a lot longer, especially depending on how old the media is that your OEM is providing you. So no, it's going to be there. Should land in January. Hopefully nothing gets delayed past that, but that's what we're striving for right now. Some other things that were included in the 2510 release, support for user account context and endpoint privilege management elevation. If you're using EPM today and you do elevations, which you've probably noticed, or maybe you haven't, but the account that we use to elevate actually isn't the same account that the end user is signed in with. And in some cases, that can cause some problems. There's issues with applications because we're using a virtual account instead of the user's actual account. And so in those situations, you can run into problems with apps. And so what we have released now is this option for elevate as current user. So if the user is elevating with their account, it's going to actually use their account. And it should make things that may have caused some problems in the past, some of those issues should go away now. This will also support multi-factor authentication for enhanced security. And so it should make things easier for those that may have been running into some challenges with that in the past. I did touch on the dashboard already. System info property is now available in properties catalog for device inventory. So if you're setting up device inventory now, there's a new category called system info that will show system level insights. So you can go and add that if you've been playing with the device inventory. Let me see here if I can pull that up real quick, because this is relatively new that a lot of people may not have picked up on. I know I'm pretty sure we showed this off, I don't know, quite a while ago. But for device inventory, shoot, I got to remember where it's at. It's not in reports. Hang on one sec, guys. Find a device that's online here. Check that in. Okay, this device should be online. So for device inventory, there's this new system info category, which for this machine, I guess there's no data that's been collected for that VM. Let me see if I can find just one more. Let's try this out. Yeah, I think I'm thinking I have to turn on the category. I don't have the category turned on right now. But once the category is turned on, you'll have a new system info category and some new data on system info. I don't know exactly what the properties are that we're collecting for that. I don't know if it's just like if you run systeminfo.exe from the machine, if we're pulling all of that, or if there's something else. But that new category is there for device inventory. Okay, let me move move this off screen. So that's in there now. New settings available for the Android Enterprise Settings Catalog. So for those of you that are using Android or managing Android devices, we've got some Wi-Fi Direct items here. Hiding the organization name is now possible. And then some settings that were only available in templates are now available in the settings catalog. So there's the list of those there. So some enhancements that we're making on Android. So hopefully that's useful for some of you. And we've also made it easier to edit the managed Google Play organization name. So that's an option now as well. Settings catalog has now been updated to support Windows 11 25H2. I know we talked about this last time. There is a blog post out that we actually reviewed this, I think, last week or last call. Yeah, so this is the same blog post. We did make a minor update to it. I think last time I called out that there's a number of items that said Windows Insider users, or like Windows Insider only, is like a parentheses, Windows Insider only, like the majority of these all said Windows Insider on them. And that was true prior to 25H2 coming out, but now that 25H2 is out, we no longer need to disclaim that. So that's been removed, and everything should be, everything should look just as you'd expect without Windows Insider being put at the end of all of these. So that's been taken care of. What else? If you're using remote help on Mac OS, there's a new client version that's out. I think this is because Mac OS 26 doesn't support the older versions of remote help. So you will need to upgrade your version of remote help so it works with Mac OS 26. The app is automatically updated through Microsoft Auto Update if opted in. So if you're not opted in, then you're gonna have to manually deploy the new updated client. So no action is required if you have Auto Update turned on. It also resolves an issue that previously caused the screen to appear blank on first launch and fail to connect. So if you're under that issue, that should be resolved now with the latest remote help client. And device security, we're ending support for legacy Apple MDM software updates. So with iOS 26, iPadOS 26, and macOS 26, Apple has deprecated legacy mobile device management software update commands and payloads. So to align with this, Intune is going to end support for all of these different MDM-based workloads, because these functionalities are now available through the declarative device management, or DDM. So that all of this stuff being ripped out, and we're going to now use DDM to handle all of that. For Intune apps, we've got some new third-party apps. Most of you, some of you may be using these. I don't even know what any of these are, so don't ask me any questions about them. But we've got some new protected apps using the Intune App SDK to provide some additional security for those apps. And enrollment time grouping failure report is generally available for Android and Windows. Enrollment time grouping it's new for on the Windows side of things. With Autopilot device preparation, we use enrollment time grouping. With Autopilot version 1, or the original Autopilot, what most people are using, we don't actually use enrollment time grouping. So there is now a report for enrollment time grouping to show any failures that are occurring during that. So you can get to that through devices, monitor enrollment time grouping failures. And we just note here that recently updated information could take up to 20 minutes to appear in the report. And so if you want some more info, you can click into the link and get there. And with that, that's everything that was released in 2510. 2511 will be obviously next month. That should be after Ignite. So we'll see if there's anything new that comes out then. Let's see, in the deck, what else did we have here? Okay, policy-based removal of pre-installed Microsoft Store apps. So we talked about this a bit last time, or maybe it actually probably when 25H2 released. There is a new policy now that helps remove any pre-installed Store apps, and this is something that people have been asking for a long time. We now have a blog post that actually goes through and explains that, as well as a change that I saw come through over X and Reddit and the various social platforms. Made this announcement that we're simplifying our Windows Update titles. And so let's take a look at both of those and what this stuff means. So first, our policy-based removal of pre-installed Microsoft Store apps. This blog post came out I think it was like shortly after our last meeting. This one came out, and it effectively explains how the whole process works for removing the built-in store apps. It lets you select from a predefined list of store apps, and you can remove those apps from Windows 11 Enterprise and Education devices. It works with GPO or MDM, including Microsoft Intune. So if you haven't moved your policies over to Intune yet, you still can use your on-premises group policies. Those will still work fine to handle this. By default, it's off. You'll need to turn it on and then select the applications you want to remove. And once enabled, enforcement occurs automatically, and then there's a cleanup task that is what's responsible for deprovisioning and removing the packages and the local app data from the user's device. And it's applied to the user's device during any of these occasions. During UBI, it's applied when the user signs in after an OS upgrade. And this is important because if you've ever handled the built-in store apps and removed them and went through an in-place upgrade with Windows, you might find that the applications are back. And so what people do to counter that is they'll create a script that they deploy through Intune that would be like a remediation script that would handle it. Or I've seen some people use scheduled tasks. There's a variety of ways that people have handled the applications coming back. I've even seen some people, in a lot of cases, they'll deploy uninstall commands through the Microsoft Store app new type within Intune, and I'll just deploy a bunch of uninstalls for the store apps. So people have been doing all sorts of different things to remove these. But one of the things that a lot of people complain about is like, I've removed the apps, yet they're coming back. And why is that? And it's because you're going through an OS upgrade. And so what this policy is going to do is it's going to actually make it so that when the policy is applied, when the user signs in after an OS upgrade, that handles that situation. And then also when the user signs in after an update to the policy. So if there's a new app that gets added, or you uncheck or recheck or something, if we've made a modification to the current policy that's already removing the apps, then we're going to reapply it and make sure that whatever the new changes are, those are in place. And we'll be able to use this in conjunction with standard provisioning methods, including autopilot. However, it's not specific to or dependent on any of those methods. So why it matters, it's going to, it's obvious. We all want a thinner, cleaner image, especially in the education space. A lot of applications that just aren't student friendly, and quite frankly, some of them might not even be great for adults either, or they're just annoying, or they're just in the way. So we handle that. And then this is the list of the apps. Not going to read all these, but one thing to just keep in mind is that this is only available for devices running enterprise and education SKUs, not pro education. So, make sure if you have A3 or A5, or, at the very least, Windows Enterprise or Windows Education, make sure that you have those in order for this to work. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Inbox removal via policy, configure it through Intune. The policy should be there now. It wasn't back when this came out. I haven't had a chance to check recently, but at the time when I checked last, it wasn't in my tenant. But in Intune, you should see it under, if you go to Settings Catalog, go to Admin Templates, Windows Components, and App Package Deployment. It should be there. And go ahead and turn it on and remove the apps. If you're using group policy, pretty much the same kind of thing. Go to Computer Configuration, Admin Templates, and then Windows Components, App Package Deployment. You will need to make sure, though, that if you check GPO right now, if you haven't updated the ADMX templates in your central store, then you probably won't see these policies. So make sure to add the updated Windows 25 H2 ADMX templates to your central store in Active Directory, and you should see them once you do that. And that's pretty much it for that. Sorry if I was reading the entire blog post, but I wanted to make sure that we all understood, because I know this is something that a lot of people have, some of you guys have used scripts that I've written. I know you guys all have your own ways of handling this. And so I know it's pretty important for a lot of us. So it's definitely a welcome change that we've needed for a little while now. Okay, so let's jump to the Windows Update titles. And I find this one kind of funny, because a lot of people, especially a lot of our MVPs, are very, they're questioning why we're doing this. And so what we're doing, if you haven't seen this yet, we are changing the title of the update to make the update titles clearer of what they are. So the updated titles they'll basically look like this. So if you have a monthly or out-of-band security update, the proposed original intent was to have it called security update, and then the KB, and then the number, the version number of that cumulative update. So 26.100.4747. That would be just whatever the CU is for this KB, that's the version number, and that's what we would change it to. So you wouldn't have the date prefixed in front of it like it used to. You would just have what it is, the KB, and then the version number. And so if you go down the line, it's pretty consistent with everything else. So monthly, so the preview updates, instead of it being security, so Patch Tuesday is a security update with the prior month's preview update. The prior month's preview update would just say preview update. Just be preview update, and then the KB, and then the version number. So notice this is 4770, this is 4747. So this would be like the D week of the prior month, so the fourth week of, I guess right now we're in November, so fourth week of October, and then the Patch Tuesday in November would be this one. This is just a hypothetical example. I have no idea what month or whatever these ones are. For .NET, we'd have .NET Framework Security Update, .NET Framework Preview Update, and then for drivers, we would just tell you Logitech driver update and then the number, and then whatever the AI components are, that component update, the KB, and then the version number. So a lot of people didn't like this. Because of the change to not include the date, makes it really tough for an IT admin to know, like, I don't know what this KB is. So what I've got to do this, right click, do a search, figure out what this thing is. And most of us don't memorize version numbers, KBs. No one has any idea. But the date's pretty helpful. If the date was there, wouldn't be a problem. So we said that we're actively listening to your feedback for the improvements. Thank you for helping us create a better user experience. What this really means is that we're actually going to add the date. The date's going to come back. I think it's just going to be the date and then security update and then this. So I think we're trying to make it so that the verbiage isn't as long. But we removed the date initially, and people didn't really like that. So I'm sure most of you probably agree that having the date is pretty important. I think it is. Because if you look at what these things used to be, or what they currently are until this change gets made, is it'd be like the date, cumulative update for Windows 11, version 25 HU for x64 systems with the version, the KB and the version. So the string was very, 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 very long. And so that's shortening up. Now, where this is not going to change, and this is good for me, is that this is not changing in the Microsoft Update catalog. It's not changing in WSUS and a number of other places. This is really just a change in the UI within settings. So when you go into settings, you go to Windows Update, you'll see them there. You'll see them in Update History, and then you'll also see it in the Windows Release Health website, which we'll look at here in a moment for some of the other things that have come up. So just know that this change is coming. If you've read this and you're like, I don't like it, doesn't make sense to me, just know we are bringing back the date, and I think that's the compromise we're making. So it'd be the date, and then just security update, and then the KB, and then the version number. So should make things a little bit clearer, but that's the change that's being made. All right, what else we got? Windows 365 AVD. We had a couple blog posts about how to choose the best connection method. So how to get to Windows 365, what is the best way to do that? And then from the front lines, empowering call center agents. I'm not sure how many of you guys run or operate call centers. some of you guys might have something like that. But just call centers in this case, I think this blog post is still pretty good to understand the different Windows 365 frontline options and which to use when. You can probably replace call center with some other use case that you might have, and I think Windows 365 frontline will fit. If you have any sort of situations where you have shift workers, or situations where people need to temporarily use a machine, like a lab scenario, I still think this blog post has actually got some pretty decent info that would be useful. But before we kind of get into that, just to kind of go over the connection methods, really what this is going over is how to connect. So we've got in the title how to connect and then what it's ideal for. And so when we look at Windows 365, you can connect with Link, you can connect with boot. So what boot is you can basically take like an old PC that probably doesn't have a whole lot of resources anymore. It might just have an old CPU, not a whole lot of disk, maybe not a ton of RAM, but you want to connect it directly to Windows 365 that might actually be more performant. And we can connect directly to that Windows 365 cloud PC. Be similar to kind of like using like a Windows 365 Link device. I got one just kind of sitting here on my desk. With this device, this uses something like boot, where it boots directly to the cloud. So you can have a desktop PC that you want to repurpose it and just have that boot directly. Whereas with something like Switch will allow you to switch between a PC. If you've ever accidentally clicked, or maybe some people do use multiple desktops. I use them sometimes, but not all that often. But I know a lot of people accidentally click this button right here. Well, this is the task view button. And the task view button shows you your desktops that you have on and you can just open a bunch of virtual desktops if you want. But if you turn Switch on, Switch will actually open another. It'll put another. Well, didn't want that. It'll put another item here in this list to allow you to switch to your Windows 365 cloud PC. So if you've got like a bring your own device scenario, like what I do is I've got my own desktop PC here that's actually joined to the Microsoft tenant. But I could also actually have this machine, and then also in conjunction with that, have a Windows 365 cloud PC that I use Switch with, and I can switch between the two of them. So you got some options there if you want to take advantage of that. And then lastly, the Windows app, and this is just how we connect Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. And then so we just have some links like what's useful, and you can just click through the different recommended options. Let's see. Oh, and the other thing I was talking about is from the front lines. So it's a pretty long one. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but basically just kind of goes over the frontline overview, what dedicated is for frontline, and what shared mode is for frontline. And I think in the higher ed space, I think there is a lot of use case for frontline shared. Remember, I was talking a bit about the lab scenarios. I really do think that if you've got a lot of students, especially for remote learning, that need access to a Windows PC just to maybe use the Office apps. They might have a MacBook, or they might have a Chromebook or some other device type that they can't run a Windows app. Doesn't have to be Office, but it could just be some other app that they need for a class that they're in. And so what this will provide you is just a shared type of PC where they sign in, they do whatever they need to do, and then when they sign out, their profile is removed. So think of it sort of like non-persistent VMs, but the difference here is that we're not removing the VM. We're not going to throw the VM away and then stand up a new one. It's the same VM. It's just that another user can then sign in after that user, and they can use the VM just like normal and do their thing, sign out, and then their profile is removed. So we're constantly removing these user profiles. So effectively, anytime someone's signed on, there's only one user profile that's ever there on the device. And then when they sign out, there are no user profiles. So this could make some sense, I think, in a lot of higher ed, and even maybe some lab scenarios within the K-12 space. Might be a little more expensive, but I do think that there are some pretty good use cases here for shared. We then just there's a table here that kind of explains the different use cases between the two offerings within frontline, between dedicated and shared mode, and then how we go about configuring. So it's a pretty lengthy post, but I think it kind of shows the power of Windows 365 frontline, whether, this is using a call center example, but I'd say it's something that I think would be pretty good to just kind of go through and familiarize yourself with both options and understand what's available to you. And what else we got? Ignite. So Ignite's coming, as we mentioned, November 17th through the 21st. It's in San Francisco. Don't think last time we talked about this, I don't think anyone's actually physically going to be there, but you can also sign up, and there will be some sessions that you can view online. You'll also be able to view the keynote. And so there's a couple blog posts here about what Windows and what Intune will be showing at Ignite. Now, not all of these sessions are going to be available to stream over the internet. Some of these you'll have to be there in person. I don't know which is which. I personally haven't read through all the posts, so I don't know what's going to be available online versus in person. But you won't be able to view all of this stuff online. So we've got a number of breakout sessions, a lot of stuff around agents within Windows, unlocking the full power of Windows 365, the efficiencies of Windows 365. There's a ton of stuff on Windows here. We've got some theater sessions. This is the stuff that's in person. You won't see those online. Labs, those labs are also in person, I'm pretty sure. I don't think you can do any virtual lab sessions. For the stuff that is going to be online on demand, we do have some on-demand sessions on lineup continuous innovation in Windows 11. This is really about how we are releasing new features in Windows 11 year-round. So it used to be that we would have an update every, a full upgrade of Windows, roughly every 3 years, and then in between that we have these EKB files, or what we call an enrollment KB, or enrollment package. And though the EKB files are what we deployed, like for Windows 11 25H2, that upgrade was just an EKB. And so these upgrades, we'll go and explain kind of how that works and what's coming next with Windows to help light those up. And then also enabling a sustainable enterprise for the future. Don't know exactly what's that. Haven't read through on that one. But we've got those on demand, and there might be some of these other sessions I think might also be in there too. But you'll have to look at the catalog to understand what's going to be available and what's not. And then Intune, I don't think there's a ton of Intune. There is some stuff here, but this blog post I think also talks a lot about some of the Windows stuff as well. But we do have a what's new in Intune. I'm going to try to check this one out if I can. I don't know if I'm going to be able to view it online though. But the what's new in Intune, how we're going to empower IT, protect the endpoints, optimize with AI. This all really is going to kind of be the what's coming in the future. How is it going to interact with AI? What's going to this is like the future roadmap. What are we going to be doing with Intune? Jason, Eugene, they're going to explain all of that. And then we have demystifying zero trust. So we've got some zero trust sessions here. And then outside of that, a lot of it's really not heavily Intune focused. Again, a lot of Windows, a lot of how AI is going to integrate with Windows. And then there's a ton of stuff on Copilot. I don't have a Copilot blog over here, but there's just going to be a ton of Copilot. But a lot of this stuff is duplicated from what we just saw on the Windows side of things. So between Windows and Intune, quite a few sessions, but most of it's going to be really around how AI is kind of being integrated into a lot of the stuff that we're doing today. We have Entra at Ignite as well. Lots of Entra sessions. A lot of work that we're doing on Entra is really around agentic work, how to secure access for AI agents. So you're going to see a lot of things about that, like what's new in secure access on the AI frontier, secure access to AI agents, Entra Suite, how to secure AI access. Like a lot of our stuff is really AI, and how do we secure all the stuff that we're starting to see in our tenants? As you create AI agents within Copilot, how do we secure those things? And so a lot of sessions on that. And then lastly, before we get into questions, just want to talk a bit about release health. So for Windows 11 release health, there's that. If you haven't seen this, there's this message center under the Windows release health page. And I find that coming here kind of keeps me up to date on what's going on that doesn't necessarily get a blog post. and you may not even see it or may not know that it's even in your message center in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So there's some stuff in here that I think is just, it's easy to miss if you don't know that this stuff's even there. So some of the stuff does get covered in blog posts, and so I kind of skip over it, like getting started with Windows 25 and 25 improvements in Windows 11. This was posted yesterday. So what is this? I don't think I came across this one yesterday. Oh yeah, this is the Windows news you can use. Oftentimes the Windows news you can use posts, if you ever come across these ones, these are kind of rehashes of stuff we've already talked about. And they kind of take a lot of the stuff that has come out over the last, 3 weeks to a month, and they just put them into one blog post. So it kind of collects things and just makes it a little bit easier for people to read. We've talked about most of this stuff on the call, but the news you can use just kind of collects all the stuff from the last month. The new Windows non-security update preview update came out last week. For those of you that do FFU, I tested this. It works, so I'm not anticipating any problems for the Patch Tuesday updates that are going to be coming out next month. But I'm trying to test the preview updates in FFU a little more frequently, just in case something weird happens, like, hey, we're going to change the name of the Windows updates. That at first kind of scared me because I wasn't sure if that was going to require any code changes. But luckily for the Microsoft Update catalog, they're not changing that stuff. So everything was good testing this. So I'm anticipating that Patch Tuesday for October should be fine, at least for deploying or updating the media for the FFUs. What else? Policy-based removal. We just talked about that blog post. Okay, this is one that I wanted to call out because this is something that you may have missed or weren't aware that there was a out-of-band patch or an out-of-band update to address the vulnerability in WSUS. So for those of you still running Config Manager or standalone WSUS, you really should install this patch if you haven't yet. This fixes this CVE. And so there is a remote code execution or RCE vulnerability in WSUS that if you haven't patched it yet, you should get on that and start doing it. The update was released on the 23rd, so it was just after we met last time. And the patch is available all the way down to Windows Server 2012. So if you haven't patched yet, get on it. KV's out there that you can go and download and install. And then there was one last post. I think we talked about this one last time, or it may have come out like the last meeting we had. But there's some Copilot stuff with Windows AI that we just released, like with Copilot Voice, Copilot Vision, Action, and Click to Do. There's a much bigger, broader post on this that I think Garrett had covered last time. So we just made another post that kind of condenses some of that info. And with that, those are all the updates that I'm aware of. Let's see what's going on in the chat. All right. A lot of people have been saying some stuff, so let's see what's going on here. So Tom's got a question. We have a compliance policy with a custom script, and we have been having devices go not applicable in waves. It climbs to almost 50%, and then it drops back down to less than 5%. Any thoughts? I'm not sure, because I haven't done a ton with custom scripts and compliance policies to know if that's expected. I don't know if anyone else on the call has done any of that. But if anyone has, you can either come off mute or type in the chat. Maybe you can help Tom out. But I haven't personally seen that.
It would take time to evaluate those and send the information back, I would think. Right? You create a script. You create a script. Yeah. You complete a policy. You assign it to a device collection. It takes time to push it out to the end units. The end units then have to come back through Intune management extension and say, "Hey, I got it." And
yeah. What happens is I have personally like 800 devices that are in my section that I manage basically, and they're almost all I have the script. I actually have the script running and it logs locally, so I can tell if it's running, looking at the device locally. and they'll all be compliant, but we'll have a wave where suddenly it'll go up to about 300 devices reporting back as not applicable that were compliant. And the local version of the script is showing that they're, running the script, they are compliant. And then if I log them in or reboot them, I could sort of force them to report back in. And of course, they're kind of supposed to be reporting in every 8 hours. But it seems like if the device is idle, it's like the data's in Intune, but it's not getting reported. I don't know. It's weird. So like I said, we've had these waves where, I'll be almost 100% compliant, and then it'll slowly ramp up to almost 50% of my devices saying not applicable. And then it'll ramp back down to, where I'll have 40 devices that are not applicable, from 300. So I don't know. I've had about 3 of the waves, and it just seems, I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong or if this is maybe expected behavior with reporting and that sort of thing.
Well, so Tom, you're talking about what I've got on screen right here. You're going to custom compliance policy through this. You've got the discovery script, and you've got the JSON file to validate all that. Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done a ton with this, so I don't nearly have the number of devices that you have, so I can't I wouldn't have.
Yeah, if you only have 10, I didn't notice it in our testing environment. It was only when I put it in production and I was hitting, almost 1,000 machines. Yeah, I was like, I had like 40 that were not applicable. And then one of the waves occurred when we had the outage, the Azure problems. And I was like, well, it must be tied to the Azure, but it's happened 2 other times. And it's not the end of the world. It's just odd because, like I said, if they're not compliant, they seem to report perfectly. It's when they report compliant, it's like the device, it has to trigger Intune to register the compliance, and it'll go not applicable, and then it'll flip over to compliant if I can cause the device to check in. So I don't know, it's weird.
I'd be curious if you had a compliance policy that wasn't a custom compliance policy, if you see the same behavior.
I have not. I have BitLocker running as compliance policy, and of course, I don't have quite the number. I'm not quite encrypting all of them, but I have not seen that one do anything like it. So yeah.
Yeah, because I'm curious, because then it might isolate. Is it the script, or is it not only just? The script could be fine, but then is it how Intune analyzes the script or reports the data? Is there something either with Microsoft on how we're handling the custom reporting data from the script, or is it just a problem with your script?
What it appears, because I can look and I can see with my script when it runs, from the logging. I did some pretty extensive logging on it, and the compliance will get triggered and flipped over with no run of the script. It's strictly the client checking back in, me either logging in a machine, just mass logging in an account into my lab computers, or bouncing the machines. Either one, when the machine checks back in, it's like it talks to Intune, Intune rereads what it already has, and then it flips it over to compliant, is what it looks like it's doing. I don't know, it's weird.
Okay, that's interesting. What else do we have? Okay, so John, did having that UBI update setting on no and ESPs break 40% of pre-provisioning for anyone else? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know on that one. Let's see what else. So Kevin's got, anyone else having issues downloading Office LTSC Pro Plus 2024 with the latest ODT? Never finishes running, setup, download, config XML. I haven't, but it looks like Michael has. Michael's using PS script to handle that. Okay, yeah, I don't think I've ever tried downloading Office LTSC Pro. I wouldn't recommend downloading Office LTSC, but there's some use cases for it, I suppose. Phone Link, who uses it? I don't know. I use Phone Link for my personal phone, and actually even on my Microsoft device, I've got Phone Link tied to my machine. Works fine. It's nice to be able to get my texts, so I don't have to look at my phone. It just kind of shows up in my Toast notifications. So I don't have any problems with it. Works well for me. Let's see what else looks like this in CM. Oh, Todd's message looks like, yeah, in CM, anything that's coming from WSUS or config manager, the Microsoft Update Catalog, all those things shouldn't, the name of the updates shouldn't change. So that all should be consistent, even as after the change is made, that all should be the same. No, Dan, I'm not going to site this year. Unfortunately, I think during the first office hours call, Garrett and I had mentioned it, and I know a lot of folks I think might have missed the first call because we had to get invites, and our flow broke for people that were trying to register for the call. But on the first call, Garrett and I mentioned that we've now been reorged. So our team now is a part of our SLG organization. So we're now SLED. So we've got SLG and education now. But our education org has actually been broken off. Our K-12 team has actually been moved over to something called Microsoft Elevate. So the same account teams that some of you guys may have had in the past aren't the same. They've now been moved on to other teams. So what that means is that myself and Garrett actually don't really cover K-12 anymore. The only K-12 support that we have is this call. This call is where we help. And if you guys email me, like I don't usually ignore emails, so I'm still available to help. But the change that we made really makes it so that a lot of those that are in K-12 now don't have the same kind of support from the folks that they used to. I'm sorry, I got muted there. You don't have the same level of support that you had in the past with the same people. There are different people that are supporting you. It's just different. So unfortunately, because of that means I'm not going to be in site in Sacramento. Although I live very close to Sacramento, I just won't be at site. And so I don't think there's going to be any Intune sessions there. I think we might have like a security session or something that's being led by one of our security engineers, but there isn't going to be anything I think related to Intune. What else we got? Yeah, NASI unauthenticated RCE, compliance check frequency not applicable. Results, I'm not, but my gang is. A lot of times, if you look at the devices showing not applicable, where's Garrett? Leaf, you missed it. I said Garrett's gone. He's on assignment this week. He'll be back next time. He's actually just got a customer call that he can't get out of. Who's running companion apps? I am Team Garrett. All right, well, we got one. That's you, Tom. You're the one. I also had I don't know if Jackie's on, but she told me she's running it. Jackie's on our Windows 365 global black belt team, and she's like, I used the people app, and I found some people internally, and it helped. I'm like, yeah, but it also like flashes like bright lights when you sign in, like, hey, there's 3 new apps here that you didn't have before that gonna kind of annoy people. But yeah, anywhere on policy sets will be complete. Policy sets are an interesting question because policy sets, I like policy sets. I wish we did more with policy sets, but unfortunately these things no one's looking at these right now. It could change in the future, but, and especially those of you that have really large tenants, like, you've got hundreds of thousands of users, policy sets would be a godsend for especially really, really big tenants, because as you kind of go through your policies, you go through your apps, you go through all those lists, we can take all that stuff and just combine it into one policy set. But there are certain things that don't fit in policy sets. There's new things that have come out that we didn't backport those things into policy sets. So I would like policy sets to get improved on, but they've been in preview for a long time and nothing has really changed here, unfortunately. But I wish we'd put some more focus on them, because I do think that they've got some really good, there's some good potential there that I think there's other things right now that people are focused on that policy sets just kind of push down the priority list. Let's see. I did the same. I use the people app a good bit. We use it for compliance, make it fit. Just we had one surprise from the October cumulative update that didn't get much publicity. I was surprised we had someone. Okay, I was surprised we had someone we used the preview pane in File Explorer. Figured I'd share in case anyone else. Oh, the File Explorer automatically disables preview feature for files downloaded from the internet. I think this is a security issue, right? If I remember right on this one. Yeah, there's a vulnerability in the NTML hash leakage that might occur. So if you were using File Explorer and you click on something and on the right-hand side, you would get the preview feature and it would show you like what the file is. We now don't do that because of some security vulnerabilities that cropped up. So that's why that is. But if you have users that have found this or they're running into it and open up help desk tickets, this is the reason why. Can we override it? Looks like the mark of the web might be getting in the way. And then local internet trusted sites. Looks like there's some override to unblock this if you really need it. But yeah, that's the update. Are there any plans to give programmatic access to auto patch? I spent a weekend making 70+ role assignments and another 50 auto patch groups, and making them manually wasn't the most fun of times. Well, that sounds like a fun weekend. But I don't know if there are graph APIs for, I personally haven't looked at the graph APIs for auto patch, so I don't know if they're there. I assume you might have done that and didn't see what you were looking for. So I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the graph APIs and see what's there, but that's where I would look. And if you did, then you didn't see anything.
That is part of the problem. Is it looks like it's an entirely separate service that doesn't run through Graph, and so I wasn't sure if there were plans on migrating that you knew of internally, or if it was just kind of going to live as its own service for the time being, or indefinitely.
I mean, my understanding is that it would be, if it's not in the graph now, at some point it would be. Okay. But I don't know anything right now. So yeah, unfortunately, looks like you'll have to do it manually.
It was fun, by the way. But
well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right. Well, those are the questions that I see in the chat. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions that they're. Just trying to look here to see if there's anything else in the Q&A. Don't see anything there. Bumping this one. Anyone have a remediation suggestion for the authentication issues that have arisen with Windows 11 duplicate SIDS and KB 506 5426? Not aware of a duplicate SID issue. When did that come out? Try to see when. When's this one? September 9th. Is that just server? No, because you've got 24H or 25H too. So that's got to be. Oh, give me Windows 11. Okay. 506, 5426, 506. Seeing it here. So Aaron, Aaron, is that server?
Oh, sorry. No, this is just Win11, just clients. Endpoints.
Okay, on client side? Okay. Yeah, so, yeah. Oh, so that was September 9th. So, okay, that was before 25H came out. Okay, so that makes sense. I haven't heard of this. So what's the issue? Like, you're seeing a bunch of SIDS, like local SIDS for
Yeah, so we have devices that are cloned in our environment using Ghost, and so we've got duplicate SIDs. And so now with this new, I guess it's a security feature where they're using the device SIDs to they're hashing them as part of the authentication process, which wasn't done previously. And so and this impacts 24H2 and 25H2. And so yeah, that's what it says. What Leaf put in the chat is you can get a special group policy. I figured I would just be able to find it. Otherwise, it's saying go through support for business, and so
we know that is.
Yeah. So I thought this would be easier, more straightforward, but
okay, got it. Decision might occur. Review, trying for creds, access requests, log on time. Okay. Cosmos updates after that included added security protections that enforce checks on SIDs. Yeah, so when you're cloning, are you using sysprep?
We have not been, because it wasn't an issue.
Should have you been?
Didn't matter. Yeah, I mean,
should have you been?
That wasn't my responsibility, unfortunately, but so now this kind of snuck up on us. So trying to figure out, because we do have these devices in the wild, and instead of having to start them over, hoping to figure out a way to keep them in service while we clean up our practices for future deployment.
Yeah, off the top of my head, God, I haven't had to deal with duplicate SIDs for a long time. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head how you'd go and rip out the old SIDs. I thought that there was like a tool or something we could use.
There was, it got pulled because it was like, it doesn't matter anymore because duplicate SIDs aren't really an issue.
Yeah, because no one should
maybe a little hiccup with WSUS. Well, it didn't really impact anything, so. Yes, it was. Yeah, you should sysprep, but it was like, well, kind of doesn't matter, and it breaks some other things. But
yeah, I mean, contact support. I'd be really curious what this, what they give you. Like, I don't know what this special. This is the weirdest thing to me. Like this, you have to go to support to get a special group policy. Like, I'd be if you do this, do it and report back because I'm really curious what this magical group policy is that they have that. Because I don't know, like, are they going to give you an ADMX file that you'll add to, or are they just going to give you like a reg hack? And I mean, I could understand them giving you a registry hack, but if they're giving you like an all up like ADMX file that you're going to import, then okay, let's be curious what this looks like. So, but yeah, this is the first I'm hearing of this. This is kind of wild. Okay.
Yeah, I know the SID changed, so that's the other thing people are talking about. So that does seem to work, but it's a third-party tool, and you got to license it. And obviously, it's not. We're trying to keep it on the up and up. Figure out, follow Microsoft suggestions, which has been contact us. So
we know how support is, but maybe this is something. I mean, if we're telling you to reach out to them directly, then maybe it should be fairly painless. I'm hoping. But like I said, try it out, report back. I'd be really curious to see what they do.
Okie dokie.
I mean, you could also use FFU if you're using. Well, what are you cloning for? Like, are you cloning just is it like a
labs?
It's just a labs.
Yeah, we got tons of software that we're deploying, trying to have kind of a universal footprint so that if we need to, we can slide classes between environments and students can work in all the environments. And so it's just big images, a lot of deployment, which I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing labs with FFU, probably here in this chat. So I'd say look at that because it basically does kind of what you're doing right now. We can deploy them, deploy machines within like less than 10 minutes. So that might be something to look at instead. But
it's on the roadmap.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of legacy that we're dragging along until we can get a lot of things implemented.
Yeah, understood. All right, well, we are at time. So thanks everyone for joining. I know some folks are dropping off. So it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast for some of you guys, so you probably want to get home. So thanks a lot for coming. We will see you in 2 weeks. Garrett will be here, so you guys can give him as much crap as you want for not being here this week. But anyway, take care, everyone. Have a good couple weeks, and we'll see you then.